Forrest, here's a quick look at the video you sent me Thursday, August 7th. Face-on view here. We played on Wednesday and noticed that our ball flight was a little thin, a little to the right, and the ball tended to, if it didn't just hang straight right, there was a tendency for it to cut a little bit. Just not a big slice, but just a little bleed to the right. So we knew that in talking and looking at that while playing, we knew that we've kind of developed a little bit of this hang back move. You noticed it in a video where your head, although slightly, is just kind of moving back away from the target rather than staying more centered and maybe even moving towards the target or releasing towards the target. Really good job here with this swing of not doing that. We'll take a look at the overall structure of the setup. There's our line down the right leg, line up the left leg. I would say that, revisiting the idea of widening the stance, we can widen that a little bit more. Maybe just, move each foot half the width of your foot. That gives us 1 foot width going, spread out both ways, and that'll give us a little bit more of a stable base to brace against, so that when we turn, and we go to the top, we can then from the top use the lower body to get down here. But we'll put this swing in motion, and it just looks really good. We're gonna put a circle around the head. You said that was a point of emphasis. You were gonna try to keep that head stable and then stay down and in the shot a little bit longer, kind of maximizing that impact position. So good job there. The head still moves a little bit away from the target as the shoulders turn. The left shoulder kind of pushes that chin and the head turns. I would say, and we'll see it from the down the line view, we may even want to turn the left shoulder down a little bit more. Doesn't mean the head moves one way or the other, up or down, but just means that the shoulders turn on a little steeper angle as we move to the top of the swing. So pretty good with the hip rotation there, the lower body. Again, if we're a little wider, we can even think about bracing that lower body a little bit more, because we certainly have learned how to turn it efficiently. So as we start the club down, we say we want to get this lower body started, have the lower body driving the swing, really a lateral shift, towards the target, by default, just the way the human body's made. If we can get that left hip driving, even in this direction, get it driving left, feel like it's driving up, and we'll talk about this when we look at the down the line view. So the left hip is driving left and slightly up. That's going to post up our left leg so we don't have that bent left knee and kind of rolling onto the outer part of the foot. That's going to give us a little more solid left side to swing against, and quite frankly, that's going to give us even more speed and more power. It's going to give you something solid to brace, to hit against, if you will. So we'll go ahead and start it down. We see that we get some rotation there, but the amount that we get through the left line is really predicated probably more on rotation than lateral shift. But the fact that we are moving through that line is good, because that means we're posted up over the left leg pretty good. You see how much of the left shoulder has moved through that line? And then, of course, when we actually get to impact, the hands are at that line. Head doing a good job of staying centered, but not rocking back in order to do it. So yes, we have, I'm going to take all these lines away. Yes, we have this secondary angle, right, where the spine is leaning backwards, right? But if I go to the address, right, there's not as much. We still have some of that, though. Because why? The right hand is lower than the left hand is on the club. So we automatically have this little bit of secondary axis tilt, the spine tilting away from the target. That's cool. So at impact, and slightly through impact, it would stand to reason that if we're kind of coming back into those alignments, we're going to have some tilt away from the target at impact, and that's what we have. We use a different color to differentiate the two. our body's, the hip rotation is open, the shoulders are, we're not trying to, but the shoulders also move open by the time there's impact, a few degrees. And so that's perfectly cool. The shoulders, sure, there's some tilt there, right? More than some players, less than other players, but one good telltale sign is that at this point in the swing, when the hands are hip high, or right here in front of the right thigh anyway, and the club shaft is fairly parallel to the ground, this is as level as we've had the shoulders in quite some time. Typically using another color to differentiate here, typically our shoulders would be a little bit more like this with the red line, and this spine angle we would have would match this, whereas now our secondary spine angle here is, kind of matching the address position, and then the very flat look with the shoulders, which is what we want. And that's going to help us draw the ball. That's going to help us cover the ball, get that toe to pass the heel slightly and square up, slightly close to the path. Because the right shoulder rocking down just kind of facilitates that upward movement, and we hold the club off and hold the face open and get that push cut that we've been experiencing lately. So we're going to swing this down to impact. You said you caught these really good. We hit the ball. We release the club a little bit. Get to this point, and here's the club extended. Very good extension with the arms and the toe up here. So that means that the club is released and it's staying square to the path. Your head, your eyes are right down here where the ball would have been, right? Or slightly in front of it, but you're still focused down there. And I think, for us, this is about as well as we've done, getting posted up and finishing completely, where the belt buckle is facing the target over here. The right knee has caught up to the left knee. We're in a really good classic toe up position there with the right leg and fairly posted up here in the left. So a really good job with that from the face-on view. And then here's the down-the-line view. We talked about getting back squared up and kind of turning those hips, or bumping the hip to the left to start with. This is pretty good. I can see, we'll use a circle here, I can kind of see the left knee over here in front of the right knee. So, we might be a little bit less square, maybe a little closed, but that might be just a little bit of an overcompensation. But better, much better that if we're trying to draw the ball, much better to be slightly closed than to be open at address, and just kind of preset ourselves to have some path issues. So here we are at address. I'm going to draw the plane line here up your shaft. And then we're going to take the club back. Your camera position is probably kind of right here, more down the line of the ball. When you set that camera up, if you wanted to point the camera maybe right in between here, where that green line I just drew is, that'll give you a little bit better view, but this angle is fine. But if the camera is kind of right here where your hands hang down, holding the club at address, that's probably the most accurate view. But anyway, let's take this club back, and I want to really point out the positives here. And the club is so on plane here. You see the club head right here, perpendicular to this plane line, and it's going to go right up that line. Club face is parallel to pretty much the spine angle right there, so that means that club face is dead square to the path. We're going to get it to the top. Really good look here. We'll go right to the top and see that our shoulder plane with the left arm, right, or the shoulder plane and the left arm are matching. Which is very nice here, because we had gotten that a little too much aroundness and low to where, our arm was kind of slung across the lower part of our chest there. And so this is just much better. This is a more on-plane backswing, and gives us, quite frankly, a better opportunity to swing down onto the golf ball. If we get that club working around, it's difficult to swing down something that isn't already up. And then, as you said, from this point, you just feel like you have more leverage here. You can use gravity as your friend and just kind of get the club falling down and moving down and gaining some speed. So let's take a look at this. We start down. One thing we'll look at, we talked about this before. In fact, we'll go back to the address position, and we'll just draw a line on the rear end there with the red line, right? And we'll go to the top. Just really good right here. And it's hard to see, but we'll use a yellow line. And we've come off that line just a little bit. The camera angle may partly show that, but we've come off that line just a little bit. And if I use a yellow line for our spine angle here and go back to address, then we do see that, and I'll use a blue line here, we do see that we have a little tendency to stand up, right, as we move to the top, right? We saw that from the front because the head went up a little bit, although the head stayed in place, centered, the head went up a little bit. Okay. Not the end of the world. We can play from there, but we're, we want to make it as efficient as we can. So we'll work on this next time, but just really good arms matching the shoulder, the left arm matching the shoulder plane there. You kind of look here, there's the club face with the blue line up there. Back of the left hand's kind of right here. They're not matching exactly, but the club face is slightly closed to the path here in this case. So when the club face points a little bit to the sky, that means we're in a closed position, but that's okay because that's going to give us the best chance, if we maintain that, to draw the ball with an inside path, right? So we'll take those lines away and we'll start down. If you really look at that top line, you see how your hands drop down from that line, and then right in here we're going to get the club right up the left arm, or right arm rather. This club shaft line is parallel to the shaft, the address plane line here, this bottom green line, and quite frankly it's parallel to what your shoulder plane was at the top of the swing. So again, just positionally and just looking at it with lines drawn on the screen, this is just really textbook here. Very good. Again though, as we kind of click through this, here's the perfect delivery position where the club is right in line with the hands, maybe slightly to the inside of the hands, and then the club face is perfectly square to that path. And just swinging down that green line that originally established shaft plane line. But again, we'll go here and we'll see that, we come off of this tush line a little bit with the blue line there. So as we go gradually from address to top of the swing to impact, we see that, we call it humping the shaft, and we see that we've really thrust those hips towards the golf ball. And so the other thing that we see, we'll keep using this blue line, here now is the shaft plane line at impact. All right, and I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to draw it right up through you. All right, and ideally, the highest we would want that to be would be to go through what the address right elbow was, right? I'm going to take this back to address. Well, we're just above, maybe right through the top of our right elbow. You can kind of see, we'll use a circle here. Kind of use this green circle. Here's the right elbow. And that line goes right through maybe the top of the right elbow. Essentially, we would want at impact, we'll use a red line here. At impact, essentially, we would want the shaft to be, if not, it's very difficult to do. Hogan, Sergio, a couple other guys get the club to come back onto this green line. But most wind up with the club shaft somewhere below, just below the right elbow at address. So if we drew a plane line, so to speak, up that right elbow, just below the right elbow, it would be kind of right there. So at impact, we would see, the top ball strikers, instead of being on the blue line here, where the right arm and club shaft and everything are kind of on the same line, we'd have a little more angle. I'm going to take all these lines away. And, we would have a little more angle with this red line kind of here up to the hands, and then there would be a little more angle up there to the body, right, up into the shoulder. And we go back to address, and we'll use another color. We'll use the green color. We can see that would, if we had that look at impact, that would still be a little higher than what the hands and club shaft were at address, but it would be a little more on plane than the club shaft, and we'll use the blue line here for impact, where the blue line has a little bit of angle in it, but not very much. And what happens there is that when we swing the club like that, then we're swinging the club in a way that the club doesn't really fit us. So we might get the toe down a little bit, right? To where at impact, the toe is a little lower than the heel. Maybe your divot's a little deeper in the toe than the heel. Although your divots we've seen on the range have been pretty good with that scuffing of the roots. But this too can contribute to why we have a shot that's kind of thin and hangs a little to the right, because that toe down is going to cause the face to be open slightly as you get through impact, and it's harder for the toe to slightly pass the heel and square up. So that's something that we'll be mindful of, and if we can make it better, we will. But again, if we're striking the ball well, getting down through it, taking a divot and everything, that'll be terrific. And we can work around this with driver too. But this is probably the next thing that we'll want to work on. Keep doing what you're doing. Get these hands high and match that shoulder plane at the top. That's just really good in this upper body look here, right? So all that's just really stellar. In fact, the lower body look is good too, but we just know that we came off that tush line, we call it, and we would want to work to improve that, just so we can improve our consistency in our ball striking, and especially with the driver. But really good job overall. That ball started, a little straighter. Probably would have had that tighter little draw spin where you hit it over the green and then chip up and down for birdie.